Great job. Thank you very much. One year. We became business partners 1 year ago, and Chao has created this tool, which is amazing. We've run it on 5 different characters and presented this data on academia.edu, ResearchGate, and my website, originofalphabet.com. Okay, let's just try this. Using substructure data to understand Chinese Hanzi. You don't know, but you were saying man. The scientific approach to language. What is the most important thing in science? Labeling. Michael Marty. Genetic research and early development. How about that? You do not have data unless it's labeled. Scientists need data to understand the world, and more data allows us to have a more precise picture, which helps us to identify bias. Remember, bias is not absolute. Bias just leads. You do not have data unless it is labeled. Cute picture. HanziFinder turns Chinese language into data. Chao and I formed HanziFinder LLC. We are equal business partners. We were incorporated in California so that we could copyright our code. And it is an AI tool suggested by me and created by Chao, which can be trained to find a target substructure within a given database. By finding as many characters as possible in a particular substructure, we can look at all the meanings in total. And then we can analyze those meanings for congruity. Chinese has many legends, but now we can add data to those stories. HanziFinder allows us to look at Chinese writing with the eyes of a scientist. Great job. Chinese is the only language that has been continuously documented for 4,000 years. And in actuality, if you know about the Jiahu characters, and I'm not sure if I'm saying that, in the Henan province, they were discovered in 1999. They are 8,600 years old, and very few Chinese people know about them. I won't talk about them now, but if you're interested, I can talk about it later. It is a foundational language like Wu Aiji and Sumerian, but it is still widely used today, unlike those languages. Chinese is representative of early culture, so it is the perfect language with which to compare other more modern languages, modern written languages. I'm focused on written language because that's actual data. Pinpointing a spot in space. If you want to pinpoint a spot in space, you use 2 coordinates. If you want to pinpoint meaning, you use ballpark and sound. 2 coordinates, also known as the radical busho and the phonetic. I've heard shangpang, I've heard inbu. There's so many names for the phonetic, it makes it confusing to talk about. Here is the nutapang, the radical, and the phonetic. Tradition says the phonetic carries no meaning, but we have no way of testing that until now. HanziFinder. The role of the Procreation, 9 character in Chinese writing, 169 characters and 58 definitions. We find a lot of characters that don't have definitions, but they're still valid data. Okay, using the search tool designed by Chao, which is his Western formatted name. Here is a snapshot of our data, 169 characters. Obviously you can't see it all, but I want to describe how we've made our data, how we've presented our data. Color-coded for meaning, organized by Unicode, definitions, character, and analysis. Undefined characters compose about half. I don't know how to do the little, half, this right there, you start having the undefined, that's not color-coded. So, maybe even with a tool like this, we might find what some of these undefined characters actually meant to people long ago. And we do not know that we found all the characters containing 9. Only that our tool has found more than is currently possible with any other tool. This is the first tool that exists that can do this. this is a huge thing that my former student has done for me. It makes me cry. I thought, could I learn Chinese? Could I talk somebody into doing this for me? It's like a dream come true. Okay, so looking for patterns. Pregnancy and milk are inextricably linked. Both require mothers, which requires sex. How many people know, who knows how many people live in this world?
7 billion.
7.6 billion, we're growing. Yes, we did not sambu here. We got here by Shanghai. Okay, so, how many people in China? It's 1.4 something. Yeah, so sex is everywhere. Why wouldn't we find it in language, right? Well, we like to be in denial. That's one of the things that makes sex so fun in a way. If we harness pattern, we can learn language faster. Here's milk, here's pregnant, both involve babies, bosom, boobs, breasts, and a lot of words that have the letter B, which looks a lot like nine. This is where I started 10 years ago. I spent 1 year just looking at Chinese before anybody could tell me my theory was wrong, because I needed to look at those characters. Chinese Text Project kept asking me if I was a computer, because I would go, what's that? What's that? What's that? They thought no human would be doing this. It had to be a computer. Okay, analyzing the data allows us to group meaning by similarity. So you can see we have procreation, 52%. So if we see a character that contains 9, we can guess that 52% likelihood of it being related to procreation, 32% related to utilization, and 16% related to deprecation. And so, more similarly, reproduce, use, and abuse. You know, I'm a writer. I have to make it kind of clever. Okay, pregnancy precursors. Okay, these are almost identical. Look at this. I mean, and one would guess that's a pregnant woman. Why do you need the urine? And I don't know if I should tell you what I think that is, but I can tell you the internet knows. If you search that character on the internet, it's pretty clear what people think that character is. Okay, here's a depiction of birth, a woman giving birth in ancient Egypt, and you see it's essentially the same character. Woman and baby coming out right there. Through her leg, I think. Here we have, this is actual writing, this is School IG right here, and you can see right here, this same character coming out here. Notice her stomach is thin. Woman giving birth. Now, this is a pregnant woman. Sumerians were very subtle, but there you go, right there. That's that pregnancy. Okay, there's a lot of correlation. I've looked across the board at lots of different ancient languages. And most people specialize into one language. I thought, no, that doesn't make sense to me. I'm going to look at all ancient languages for their consistency, for their congruity. And we are mammals, named for our mammaries. Rufang is mammary, and mama is at the root of both of those words. Mammal, mammary, mama. You have to be a mama before you can have milk. Okay, milk precursors. I realize this is pretty radical, but man, your language is the key language, so take comfort in that. Everyone's going to have to learn Chinese someday. I'm going to help them. We are going to help them. And my translator and friend too, Maggie Lee, who's been instrumental in all of this research as well. Okay, so here we have, let's see, here we have the Jinwen, we have the 9 now, and a semantic variant, and this is a precursor. And so, long ago, female mammals were conflated. Men did not always distinguish between women, sheep, cows, etc. It's an unpleasant reality. This is the part of data that people don't want to acknowledge. But you know what? If we acknowledge it, we can understand why bias exists and understand ourselves as humans better. So, I think this is potentially a Nyo. I think this could be Ruto, right? X marks the spot. It's very Pendology. Chinese is an incredibly logical language. I always say it's very mathematical. Sure, yo-mayo. It's yes, not yes. This is brilliant. It's Han-Tong-Ming. It's a great language. Okay, besides this 9, we have also compiled data for Nutapong, Mao. Mao is a key character. Think Luan. 我觉得 Luan 是图片的书 Luan Luan. fallopian tubes. And if you look at Gu-IG, you can see the same thing, okay? And there's characters where if you put Nutapong right here, it means pretty girl. Why is she pretty? Probably because she's Chunu. I ask all my male students, are you going to be Chunan when you get married? Right, nobody's ever heard Chunan before. Okay, Fan Chun Pong. Fan Chun Pong, 66% of meanings that have Fan Chun Pong mean beast. So, should we be using this word for humans? Let's just think about Yo Tai. And remember, I'm not picking on Chinese. This is a new idea, Xin Isa. And I have to tell you, Qing does not just mean blue. It's blue, black, new, white, has a lot of associations with sex. Okay, we are searchable at academia.edu, researchgate.net, originofalphabet.com, and we welcome any questions, thoughts, ideas. We are excited about this research. Thank you very much for your time. 还有问题吗？
Questions? Are there time for questions?
Yeah, we have time for questions.
And high pop. They're afraid. They're afraid.
A question for both of you. You said about 60% of the nights have meaning, right? Have meaning, and the rest have no meaning.
That's for me.
Each character is different, but there's about 50%. There's a lot of characters that we don't know their meaning.
Right. But you use the portion that have meaning to build your model.
Yes.
Right? So if you start from scratch and do your model again, but hindcast take away 10% or 15% of the world,
Yes.
blind those, and after you build your model, you unblind those to see whether it verifies that. Can you do that?
It's going to be hard to give meaning to meanings that nobody, not even the experts, have
You
defined.
take the portion that already has meaning, but instead of using the entire data set to build the model, okay, sorry.
I think these are fascinating ideas. I think we kind of talked about this idea, but the difficulty about this problem is we have meanings, we can understand meanings, but it's hard to identify meanings with numbers. You have a meaning space, but numerical. This one is pretty hard.
So can you use that database then to interpret the words which seems to have no meaning into kind of meaningful?
Well, this is exactly what Mike is suggesting.
I'm going to explain this. So I made minor contributions to the thinking. But so you can imagine a situation where you can take a substructure and then you can make the map that Jennifer said. So for substructures that carry part of the meaning or drive meaning in a character, you will see that the pie chart only has a few number of segments. Whereas a substructure that doesn't drive the meaning of the character, you'll see many pieces of the pie, right?
Yes.
Okay, so now you can chart those meanings, and then you can do all of the substructures, and you can have all of the charts, and then you can begin to overlap them, right? Which characters have two of those substructures, and then overlap the meaning space. And then using techniques like that, you should be able to discern the meanings of structures that you don't yet know the meanings. Okay, so that's like second generation. Okay, but it's possible.
There's only us two right now. I want to give you an example too. So I say to a lot of people, 三个人是重，三个木是散，三个女人不好测. You know that 3 women is adultery, wicked debauchery, and not just now. Now it actually is in the word for rape, but that word has been negative for 4,000 years. What effect does that have on all the women here? That 3 women is a bad word. And now I know that's Gentitza. Gentitza is Nutapong and Gan, but I know Gan has another meaning, and you probably know that meaning as well. And so somebody said to us, well, you're just taking the word that means bad for women. Why didn't you take on, right? There's woman under house. Well, there's also cow under a house, which is prison, and there's pig under a house, which is home. And actually, Mike and I owned a pig for 4 years, so I feel like I was Chinese before I even knew it. But there's no man under a house. I know there's Ding, a male representative. But when a woman is behaving correctly, being under a house, under a roof, that's positive. 3 women apparently is not women behaving correctly. So these are not necessarily cherry picked, but this is why we have a tool, so that we don't cherry pick, so we look at all the data.
It's just an extension to the previous point. So language actually is a living language, so it's evolving all the time. Right? Some of the words used maybe 1,000 years ago, we don't use anymore. We actually constantly.
Many are dropped out
Yes.
because of denial, because we don't want to recognize that word. Like the character of Nai, Mu Dapong, and then the 4 X's. That word has been dropped out, but I know I saw it recently at the Shanghai Jewish Museum. That character, I think it's pronounced R actually, and it is the precursor to what is used now as Nai.
So you can think of that, what you just asked, is essentially political correctness.
Yes,
Okay?
before we had the
And
word.
so all cultures have some form of political correctness,
Right.
right? And then that influences the words that they use and the way that they use those words. And so languages evolve, and actually I think texting is increasing the speed with which written languages evolve now, because a word can be, summarized into a smaller word, and then 100,000 people can learn that in a day. So the speed with which written forms are going to evolve now is going to increase rapidly.
And sometimes that political correctness is actually a kindness. So I happen to know there was a paper written at Harvard that says that in the 1950s, Mao and the men that were doing linguistics, when they were simplifying it, they took the dog radical, Fan Chunpong, out of all the ethnicities, because they were trying to unite China, and if you call people dogs, it's harder to unite people. But they were not thinking about Jewish people at that time. And so this is like an appendix. This is an artifact. It's left over. I know that Chinese people love Jewish people. I know that China was great to the Jewish community during the World War II. I know that the Yellow Submarine guy, Peter Max, lived in China, and when you look at Peter Max's art, I don't know if you know Yellow Submarine or the Beatles movie, he was greatly influenced, obviously, by Chinese culture, and I learned this by living in China. So, it's not that Chinese people don't like Jewish people, this is an artifact that's left over, but because it just hangs around, nobody thinks about changing it. I actually think it's probably time to take the dog radical out of the word for Jewish, but that's just my personal opinion. Yes, you have a question? Lovely to have women ask questions.
I don't know if you two would consider some collaboration, because when my son started to learn Chinese, and he's going to international school, so learning Chinese is a little bit challenging than local students. And they have a certain kind of like a pool of the Chinese character, then they explain for each one what that means, and if you put together and what is that meaning. I think they have certain hundreds or close to 1,000 is for teaching, mainly for teaching. And I think you're going to more systematic way and more computer using the tools. And maybe you can also borrow some information from that already existing.
Well, the Busho, the radical, is a subcomponent. So this concept already exists. Chao points this out, that the radical is a substructure. So Chinese is already using substructure as a concept. And one of the characters there was Huayuan, Yuyin, and Yu. And so logically, what is fish baby? Fish baby would be the meaning is robe, and nobody knows this character now. Just like nobody knows my name, which is Jen. And Jen, I picked specifically, 我圈着因为我看很多男人去。I know, I'm just joking. 我开个玩笑。我有很好的笑。我是我的老公，B9。我不是